You're listening to the J.D. Rucker Show. Let's begin. Well, we are officially back. Thank you for being so patient. Thank you for sticking with me here at the J.D. Rucker Show. I am, of course, your host, J.D. Rucker, and we're ready for this next chapter. Things are really ramping up. For those who don't know, I have officially rejoined Red Voice Media, but it's a new Red Voice Media. As a matter of fact, you don't even call it Red Voice Media anymore. It's rvmnews.com. rvmnews.com. That's where you'll find my show, Sean Parnell's show, Wayne Dupree, Drew Berquist. We're going to be adding quite a few more hosts to it, and it's going to be super exciting. And it's not just going to be shows there. We're putting news up every single day, high quality news. We've got some great writers out there that are bringing us unique content that is the stuff that you need to read, the stuff that you need. But it's not just going to be all politics or culture or faith. I know that's what my personal focus is on, but we're going to add over at rvmnews.com, we're going to be adding sports, entertainment, some of the stuff that's not quite as heavy as perhaps you're used to me talking about. That's, again, I'm not changing. But I'm not. You won't see me talking about Taylor Swift or anything like that anytime soon. But the network will be. The network is adding this and really trying to focus on helping America. I've added discernreport.com as well as discern.tv to the mix at RVM News as well. So Discern Report, which has been one of my two main aggregators for a long time, it is now becoming, it's still going to be an aggregator, but we're also turning it into a newsletter. The newsletter, I'd like to say. I don't want to just say a newsletter. This is the newsletter. This is the definitive newsletter. Everything that I do, for those who don't know, as the editor over at thelibertydaily.com and then, of course, Discern Report, I have call it the task, but it's really a blessing. It's an honor for me to be able to as a profession to read through news every day. Lots of news. I read anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 headlines per day, and I read the full articles for at least dozens. Sometimes it feels like I read hundreds of articles a day, but I know I don't read that fast. So at least dozens of articles. I read it. This is how I'm able to stay on top and to bring you guys some amazing content, not just at thelibertydaily.com or rvmnews.com or discernreport.com, but also now with the Discern Report newsletter. So if you would, I would strongly recommend going to discernreport.com. You'll see the newsletter up there. It's just going to be a daily digest of the most important news that people need. Sent to your email box. It's free, of course, and it's going to be spam free. We're not going to be putting in foot fungus ads or anything weird like that. I know a lot of these newsletters, they will take these lists and then they will throw in, I don't even know. I don't get to see them because I blocked them, of course. But you've probably seen them. You've seen newsletters from the various sources out there that you get, and you'll see weird ads that maybe they target you, maybe they don't. I don't know which is creepier. The ones that are offering you products that you absolutely don't want, or the ones that somehow know exactly what you want. Well, we're not going to be doing that on the Discern Report newsletter. It's going to be clean and crisp, and it's not just going to be links to our articles either. This is the difference maker. This is what will make this separate from other newsletters out there. Okay, you can sign up for some amazing newsletters. The Epoch Times has dozens of newsletters. Breitbart has several. Washington Examiner, The Blaze, all these very conservative sites have their own newsletters, but they're only linking to their sites. The Discern Report newsletter is actually going to be picking out the most important stories from everywhere, okay, from the entire conservative and Christian sphere of news and even blogs, okay? We're really trying to pull in as much high-quality content as possible, regardless of the source, and issue it to you in a daily email. So go to discernreport.com and sign up for that. Again, it's free. We don't spam. We don't sell the list. Nothing like that, okay? You're not going to get any all of a sudden you're being hit up by some Republican senator or something like that. No, we don't do that at all. You'll just have links to the Gateway Pundit, to rvmnews.com, to discernreport.com, to smaller sites such as wltreport.com, WND. I'm just thinking of some of the ones that were on the most recent one. The Post Millennial, Breitbart. We had some I think we had at least one article from the New York Post. So some big, some little, some medium sized. The importance is that it's content that we want to share. And we're not just going to be sending traffic to us. It's not like a regular newsletter. We're sending it out. Sending it out to the people. Think of it along the lines, if you're familiar with thelibertydaily.com, it's kind of like a newsletter, but a newsletter version of the Liberty Daily, or for all the old school people out there, it's like a Drudge-like newsletter. I don't even like saying the name Drudge, but if that'll get the point across, so be it. Discern.tv is also going to continue. We're still, don't go there today. We're still in the process of getting it tweaked, getting it situated to where it is the right content. Yeah, this is going to be more of the based content, the bold content, the things that we can't talk about because we'll get canceled everywhere. Well, we're going to talk about it, but we're not going to talk about it on the traditional channels. It's not the kind of stuff that you'll find on YouTube. This is the kind of stuff that you'll only be able to find over at discern.tv, and that is, Lord willing, that will be done this week. So I hate long intros. I'm just super happy to be back. I'm super happy to be restarting my Substack. I've taken like a 2-month break from Substack, and now we are officially restarting that again today. So super excited. I mean, great stuff is happening. For those of you who want to see the regular aggregation, okay, I know that we had a lot of visitors going to Discern Report, and you're used to seeing 40, 50, 80 stories a day. We're dropping that down to try to focus, highlight just the most important stories. And it's not necessarily the biggest stories. I want to be clear about that. Some of these stories aren't even being covered by most news outlets, but that doesn't mean they're less important. I remember when I was on with John Solomon yesterday. John Solomon over at Just the News. It's on his podcast, and he was asking me about how we're able to get the news so quickly and even find things that people don't necessarily aren't talking about. And the example that we brought up on his show was East Palestine. So East Palestine, Ohio, we had the story up about the train derailment 18 minutes after the train had derailed. We already had it up over at thelibertydaily.com. We were already covering it. We were already following it on Twitter, following it on the local news. We actually had it ahead of the local news. Okay, and we continue to hammer that story. What many people don't realize is that, it's out there. It's a big news. People in the area, they were aware of it, but outside, it wasn't national news until all of a sudden you start looking up and there's all these fumes because, of course, they started burning it. That's a week later before the first time you got to see it on wherever, Washington Examiner or Washington Times or Washington Post or any of those places. Nobody was covering it. They said, oh, yeah, there was a train derailment. It sucked. We were on top of it from the beginning, and we stayed on top of it. And I'm not trying to say that to brag or anything like that. I'm just telling you that this is the type of stuff that we want to be able to do. And it's not always just breaking news. Sometimes it's finding those little hidden gems that maybe nobody's talking about it yet. Maybe they do need to talk about it. So that's what we're going to be focusing on as much as possible. We're going to try to bring the highest quality content out there. And sometimes we'll be talking about stories that everybody's talking about, and other times we're not. Just as an example, I'm not going to be talking about Anthony Fauci today. I know that he's got the hearings. I know that yesterday he was getting busted for his whole 6-foot fake rule thing, and he's getting yelled at by Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's getting lambasted across the board, and then he's getting basically worshipped by the Democrats in the committee. None of that. Is it interesting? Sure, but is anything going to come from this? Is Anthony Fauci going to go to jail as a result of anything that happened yesterday? No. Is he going to pay any penalties, any fines? Is he going to have anything happen to him? No. It was theater. It was fun theater. I mean, hearing Marjorie Taylor Greene going off, that was actually kind of fun. Okay? And maybe we do need more fun in our lives right about now, but I'm not going to be talking about it. Not on this show, not on my Substack, not on my newsletter, because it's just theater. It's kabuki theater. Whenever they have these committees, when was the last time you saw anybody, at least when the Republicans are running things? When the Republicans are running things, nothing happens, right? It's like, oh my gosh, we're gonna lecture you during, we're gonna ask you questions and then try to get you to answer. And you're not gonna answer. We're gonna make fun of you. And we're gonna put up charts, get our aides to put up these big charts and all this stuff. And it's like, oh wow, we got him. And you got the conservative media going, oh yes, we got him. Game over, man, game over. And then nothing happens. Okay. Nothing happens. Whereas you have people like Steve Bannon. Looks like he's going to jail. Peter Navarro in jail. When Democrats are running these things, they take it seriously. When Republicans, it's like saying, okay, well, we got our soundbite. We can use that in our campaign mailer. Look, I'm not trying to say that Democrats are better than Republicans. Obviously, from a policy perspective, they're not. But they do tend to take more actions than Republicans. Republicans on Capitol Hill have a tendency to talk a lot. That's what they do. They send harshly worded letters. They hold these gotcha moments in these committee meetings and committee hearings, and they really go. They went after Fauci hard. Here, as I say, I was going to talk about it. I'm probably spend the last 5 minutes on it. Point being is that to me, that's not news. Okay, it's just theater. So we're not going to address that. One thing that is definitely not theater, that is news. And it's shocking that I haven't heard more people talking about it, because it is obviously very relevant. For those who've been living under a rock, President Donald J. Trump has been convicted. And there's now this big debate going back and forth between the left and the right, Democrats and Republicans, talking heads on both sides. Is it legit? Is it real? Is he going to go to jail? What's going to happen to during the sentencing hearing? It's happening 4 days before the Republican National Convention. There's all sorts of drama. But when you listen to the Democrats, whether it's not just Democrats, anybody in corporate media, anybody on the left in corporate media, they're saying the same things. All the panelists and guests, they're saying the same things. They're all saying one thing in particular. Okay. They're all saying it's, because everybody's asking, what's the crime? Well, apparently the crime is that he had misappropriated the money. In other words, he paid this money to his attorney, and his attorney is reimbursement for money that was allegedly paid by Michael Cohen to Stormy Daniels as hush money to prevent her from coming out. And because it was done during the campaign, that's why Trump is guilty. This is unprecedented, and nobody's ever done that before. Take money, and then the big thing, the thing that really they latch onto is that he labeled it as a legal expense, and that's a lie. That's a lie. Well, folks, if we really want to look at somebody who took something that was for their campaign and labeled it as a legal expense, we don't have to go very far back. We can go, 2016, and crooked Hillary Clinton doing her thing. This is an article from the Associated Press. I'm not pulling this from Gateway Pundit or America First Report or anything like that. We're pulling this from the Associated Press. This is March 31st, 2022, so over 2 years ago. DNC Clinton campaign agreed to Steele Dossier funding fine. Why did she get fined for the Steele Dossier, you might ask? Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign and the Democratic National Committee have agreed to pay $113,000 to settle a Federal Election Commission investigation into whether they violated campaign finance law by misreporting spending on research that eventually became the infamous Steele Dossier. That's according to documents sent Tuesday to the Coolidge-Reagan Foundation, which had filed an administrative complaint in 2018 accusing the Democrats of misreporting payments made to a law firm during the 2016 campaign to obscure the spending. You might be thinking, well, that sounds very familiar. As a matter of fact, that sounds so similar to what they're accusing Trump of doing, but there's a difference. What Trump was doing is something that he could have done and probably would have done regardless of whether he was running for office or not. Okay? They've made, at least his attorneys, with the corrupt judge trying to stop them, but they tried to make the point that this was about his family. He was paying hush money to Stormy Daniels, who he allegedly maybe had an affair with, or had a singular whatever. He was doing that to protect his family, to protect his wife. And there's nothing illegal about that. Okay? So that's something has been found guilty of 34 counts, 34 felonies. Okay? Faces potential jail time because of something that, campaign or no campaign, he probably would have done the same thing. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, she was paying for the Steele Dossier. The Steele Dossier is not something that she would have gotten if she wasn't running against President Trump. That was a direct attack on her political opponent. That was super relevant. Where are the felony charges? Where is anything more than a fine that she makes with one speaking engagement at some library in Ukraine or something like that? I mean, it's clear that what she did was worse. Now, let's say you might ask, well, how did she mislabel her spending? According to this article, the Clinton campaign classified the spending as, wait for it, legal services. Wait, isn't that why they're trying to put Trump in jail? Because he paid his lawyer, he paid his lawyer, and labeled it as legal services. Take from that what you will, folks. It's we do live in a clown world in many ways, and you don't hear the people that are saying that Trump should go to jail, because of these alleged felonies. These are the same people that would say that Hillary Clinton should not have gone to jail, and she did not, and that her penalty maybe they'll even say that her penalty was too harsh. Oh, she had to pay. All she was trying to do was save the country from Trump. That's how they think. That's what they want you to think, and that's the sadder part. Speaking of politics, since we're going to stick with politics, look, I know that I said that I'm moving over to Red Voice Media, rvmnews.com, and that RVM is going to be doing a lot more in non-political realm. It's hard for me. Look, my primary focus is my faith. I want to spread the gospel. I want to read my Bible. I want to share as much as I can, knowledge-wise and feelings-wise, as it pertains to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's my number one goal. My number two goal is to prepare my family for whatever is to come, and to get them as ready as possible for whatever they're going to throw at us, because they're throwing a bunch of stuff at us. We're in a multi-front war against American citizens, not just against America as a nation, but against us as individuals. We are engaged in a multi-front war, whether it's the border crisis, the attack on the food supply, the attack on our economy. And I say attack as if it's singular. These are attacks, multiple attacks. So even in each individual front, on those fronts, we have multiple fronts. It's insane. Are we going to go to war in Europe? Are we going to go to war with Russia? Are we going to go to war with Iran? Are we going to go to war with China? I mean, never in history have we been this embroiled in so many possible existential threats. Never has the United States of America been this close to disaster on multiple fronts. We've faced disasters, don't get me wrong. There just haven't been this many. At any given moment in history, we as a nation might be facing 1, 2, maybe 3 major problems, right? Right now we're facing 14. And these I'm not just talking about, oh my gosh, inflation. I'm talking about potential for economic collapse and the adoption of central bank digital currencies. Okay? I'm not just talking about, oh my gosh, the border is out of control. I'm talking about an actual invasion. We'll be covering this in a story here in a minute. An actual invasion, especially as it pertains to the very underreported, dramatic, exponential rise in Chinese nationals crossing over and not getting treated the same way that other illegal aliens are being treated once they cross the border. Again, we'll cover that here in a second. I mean, we are facing these threats. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about politics. Speaking of politics, let's look at RFK. Okay. For the record, I like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as I don't even know how to describe it. It's not that I like him as a patriot per se. I like some of his ideas, okay? And to be clear, before anybody turns the channel, I would never vote for him. I mean, even if, let's say, God forbid, they're somehow able to prevent Trump from running. People are like, well, I guess it'd be, RFK, he's better than Biden. I guess that, or Nikki Haley. Look, I would just not vote. I know that sucks, For a lot of people, they're like, oh, but then if you don't vote, you're voting for Biden. You're voting for Kamala Harris presidency. I get it. I've made that argument myself in the past. But in this particular case, I could not, in good conscience, vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., knowing his perspectives on abortion, knowing his perspectives on the economy in general. Do I like what he says about certain topics? Absolutely. Okay. In many ways, there are certain topics where he is actually more aligned with my personal feelings than even Donald Trump. But as a whole, it's not even close. Donald Trump represents me 94, 95% of the way. Okay. RFK Jr. might represent about 30 or 40% of my perspectives. And I can't vote for that, even if it's better, the lesser of two evils. Nor could I vote for Nikki Haley or anybody like that. Point being is that I still like him. Okay, I would love to have an adult beverage with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I think that he is a swell guy. I think that he is a true legitimate activist. But I also know that on especially certain topics, he is a radical leftist. Okay, he is. If you're an RFK Jr. fan, that might offend you, but it's just the truth. I'm not trying to disparage him. Let's look back. Okay, there's this video that's been going around recently that it's making its rounds, and it's the truth. And it's funny because, well, let me play the video and then I'll tell you what's funny. There is funny to this, but let's get to RFK Jr.'s own words.
Amory Levin's calculated that the true price of a gallon of gasoline, if the oil companies had to pay the true price, would be about $12 a gallon. So that's what we're paying for oil, but they don't pay it. You and I do. And if they actually were forced to internalize those costs, to pay all the healthcare costs and the crop damage and the acid rain damage and all that other, and the pollution costs, and that was reflected in the price of oil, then we'd be paying $12 at the pump, and we'd be sending the correct signals to the marketplace. And the market would be saying, we need an alternative to a gasoline car, because every American would say, well, it costs about 0.3 cents a mile to drive an electric car, and it costs about $4 a mile once you get, to buy a gasoline car, and we'd very quickly transition, and you would incentivize all these people out there who are adding efficiencies to lithium-ion batteries and looking at different battery systems.
Well, there was. Now here's the counter to that. Not the counter to what he said. What he said is obviously ludicrous. I don't need to explain to you why increasing gas prices for the sake of trying to force people into electric vehicles, why that's absolutely wrong. And to be fair, his campaign has come out and said, he wants a transition. Well, I'll read his quote, but it's basically they're saying he doesn't want to force anything on anybody. Okay, great. Corporate media and many, many, many people on social media are coming out and saying, oh, this is old. This is, he was talking about this in 2003. That's a lie. If you hear that, that's a lie. And even Fox News, of all places, and look, anybody who's watched my show before, I am not a fan of Fox News. I think they are controlled opposition. I think this is a perfect example of them being controlled opposition. Here's their story. RFK Jr.'s past support for higher gas prices and electric cars surfaces. Old interviews show. Old interviews. They're already, you have to understand language, and we're going to be talking about this on the show quite often, about how the left, and especially controlled opposition, uses very specific words, very specific languages. They craft everything. Well, not everything, but they craft a lot of their messages in a way that's designed to elicit a certain response, to steer your mind in a certain direction. In this case, these are old interviews, and the article starts off by saying, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. previously expressed support for higher gas prices for consumers, which he argued would force a market shift toward electric vehicles. Okay, we heard that. Kennedy made the argument in a number of media appearances, as well as at least one speech going back to 2003. Oh, so that what he just said, it was like 21 years ago. Okay, well, you know what? I mean, the Trump evolved. Trump was pro-abortion at one point. Trump wanted gun bans. He was all for the assault weapons ban. He was a Democrat. He did certain things. Reagan had certain ideas. Before he maybe RFK Jr. Especially, it's been 21 years, right? No, no, it hasn't. That's a lie. Well, it's not a lie. Let me be clear. It's not a lie, not a direct lie. Because later on in the story, they mention that interview that you just saw, or that discussion of $12 gas, and probably higher by now, but that was from 2016. Okay, that was in the basically the current era, the current iteration of politics of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Okay, less than a decade, and he has not walked any of this back. Okay, until this clip resurfaced, and his campaign basically made a one-line statement. What did they say? They said Kennedy's campaign told Fox News Digital that Mr. Kennedy believes the transition to clean energy must never come at the expense of those who can least afford it. A very well-crafted, again, goes back to language, a very well-crafted statement there. He's not saying that he disagrees with that yet. He's just saying, hey, it shouldn't. Let's make sure that the disadvantaged, the poor people, that they're not hurt by this. Well, don't even get me started on that whole talking point, because it's everything, all of the negative stuff that they do. They being the powers that be, whether it's in government, in non-government organizations, even in media, in most of, we'll say all of big tech, all of big pharma, okay, and a good chunk of corporate America. Everything they do that's supposed to, quote unquote, help invariably ends up hurting Americans. And the people that always get hurt the most are the poor, are the most vulnerable, as they like to say. They want to protect the most vulnerable with abortion. It's like, what? I mean, to me, to you, none of that makes any sense. But to them, it makes perfect sense, right? Well, it doesn't. But so, point being is that here's Fox News. Okay, you have to go way down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs before they actually talk about the quote that was resurfaced, the quote from what you just heard about $12 gas. Okay, why didn't they lead with that? That's the story. That's what's actually out there. That's what they're talking about when they say old interviews. No, they led with the 2003. They did that for a reason, because they want people to stop reading at that point and say, oh, okay, never mind. Not a big deal. Maybe he has evolved. It's been 21 years. That's enough time to evolve. This is what we're faced with, folks. And this is one of the reasons, reason number 15 or 20. Okay, I have thousands of reasons that I could come up with if given enough time that I would never vote for Joe Biden. I've got probably hundreds of reasons that I would never vote for somebody like Nikki Haley. And for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I could probably come up with a dozen. Okay, it's not as much, but it's a dozen too many. There's at least a dozen reasons that I would not ever vote for RFK Jr. And unfortunately for him, and for us too, is that this is one of them. He really is. I mean, he's a climate change purist. Okay, there are three different types of people out there. There are the useful idiots who climate change, they don't get it. They just think they get it. They pretend like they get it, and they don't actually care. They think they care, but they just want an excuse to throw tomato juice on art and to glue their hands to the road. They're useful idiots, and I stress the word idiots. Okay. Then you got the people at the very top. Okay, these are the what do you want to call them? The globalist elite cabal. Okay, they utilize climate change as a boogeyman. They utilize it as a skeleton key through which they're actually able to unlock any door. Okay, they want to tackle this policy, climate change. They want to blame this on something other than what the actual core problem is. Blame it on climate change. Nobody will question climate change. If you question climate change, then you're against the science. Okay, so you got the people at the top that utilize climate change for their evil machinations. You got the people at the bottom who have no idea what they're doing, and that's the bulk of them. RF Kennedy's right there. RF Kennedy Jr. Is right there in the middle. He is a purist. He truly, legitimately believes. I'm pretty sure that he actually looks at climate change. He's done his due diligence. He's talked to scientists. He has come to the conclusion after his research that the climate really is dying, and that it is man-made, and that we have to, as a people, we have to do something about it, and we have to do something about it now. And so when he says in 2016 that higher gas prices would prompt people, would change the market, send the right message, as he put it, to the market, why would we pay $4 per mile on gas when we can pay 3 cents per mile for lithium ion batteries? It's not true, by the way. The math is way off, even at $12 a gallon, by the way. But yeah, I don't know. That's his thing. He really is a true believer. And again, that's reason number 4 out of a dozen or so that I could never vote for. RFK Jr. I know I'm not the only person in America right now who is greatly concerned about the economy. I look around and people have concerns. It's not just inflation. That's already bad enough. It's not just the risks in the housing market, even the stock market. Are we in a bull market? Are we really? Or is it a false positive based upon inflation? That's a good question. I'm not an economist. I don't offer financial advice, but I do know some good people that can help, at least when it comes to navigating the various turmoils that we're facing. You could look at BRICS nations. They're pushing for world domination of the entire global economy, and they are getting bigger and bigger, seemingly every week. It seems like there's another nation's talking about joining BRICS. Folks, that's a grave concern, and it's not getting nearly enough attention from corporate media. Of course, you have the risks. And when I say risk, it's not even a risk. It's a foregone conclusion at this point that we are going to, at some point in the future, have central bank digital currencies. Is it going to be this year? Probably not. Is it going to be next year? Possibly. The year after that. And now, the longer out you go, the more likely it becomes. And when we have central bank digital currencies in place, you can say goodbye to a whole bunch of things, including your privacy. But in many ways, you'll be saying goodbye to control over your money. That's one of the reasons that central banks themselves are buying physical precious metals, and I do believe so should you. Again, I'm not saying that as a financial advisor. I'm just throwing out the options. And one of the options out there is to work with a faith-driven precious metals company that specializes in those physical precious metals that I think every American should get a hold of one way or the other. Whether you got money in the bank or under your mattress and you want to just buy physical precious metals, great, awesome. If you have a retirement account, an IRA, an old 401k, a government retirement account, then you should be talking to my good friends over at goldwithgenesis.com. Genesis Gold Group is amazing. Okay, this is a faith-driven company. I've worked with them for 2 years now. I've worked with other gold companies in the past. These are my guys, and it's definitely not because they pay the most, but they are by far the most honest. They don't go and try to con people with $5,000 in free silver or $10,000 in free silver. All you got to do is pay a $299 processing fee, and then we'll send you 10 grand in free silver. It's like, really? But apparently it works because these big gold companies keep promoting that concept. Well, you won't hear any shenanigans like that over at goldwithgenesis.com. Reach out to them, get your free definitive gold guide. You can read reviews. They've got some articles there. Got all sorts of even nifty infographics, okay, talking about 30 years of central bank demand. If you're looking at the screen, look at that. Can you see that on the far right, that big spike? That's today, folks. That's what they're doing right now today. Central banks are buying up gold and silver. And again, not a financial advisor, but man, you got to start paying attention. You've got to start paying attention when they're buying it. Central banks who have the inside track to this, they know central bank digital currencies are coming. They know that there's going to be economic turmoil, perhaps even economic collapse here in the future. They are hedging their bets. They're not sinking all their money into the stock market or anything like that. They are protecting themselves, and I do believe that the higher ground, the safe haven of physical precious metals, is where many Americans should put their life's savings. Contact Genesis Gold Group at goldwithgenesis.com. Fill out the form, get your free definitive gold guide, and they will take great care of you. And they're not going to try to con you with any free silver. So there's that. So let's talk about Atlanta. What's going on with the water in Atlanta. Why are we now on what, day 5 of many people being out of water? Folks, water. I obviously I focus on preparedness quite often, and outside of having a Bible, I would say that the number one thing that you desperately need in a survival situation is water. Okay, you can go without food for a long time. I do fasts fairly regularly. You can go without ammunition if you know kung fu or if you avoid the bad guys. You can go without a whole lot of things when it comes to preparedness, but you can't go without water for more than like 3 days. Okay, and here's the thing: without water, when you have a city the size of Atlanta, 500,000 people, with a good chunk of them, at least tens of thousands of them, not having running water, it's not just being able to drink. Sure, you can get water to drink. You can go down to the fire station and pick up cases of water. FEMA and anybody else. There's going to be drinking water available to the vast majority of people, right? But what about the toilets? Okay, what about sanitation? that's that's terrifying. Okay, I mean, it really is. Imagine, having no running water for 3, 4, 5 days, and no place where you can easily go and use the restroom. Okay, that means that there are major health concerns in households across the city right now, and yet we don't know why. We don't know why. Are you kidding me? Nobody knows what happened. That doesn't make any sense. It's an article over at once again, second time today I'm talking about the Associated Press. Article over the Associated Press. They cut through and they're talking about everything, boil water and the places where they're having challenges getting the water back up. But again, we're going on 4 days, and the thing that got to me is that they still have no idea why it happened. They don't know. They can't explain what's going on. I mean, at least we've had, obviously the Flint water was a debacle, but we had reasons for it. Jackson, Mississippi. Okay, for those who don't remember, a couple of years ago, Jackson, Mississippi, they had their massive water issues. They're the ones. They had the mayor who was I mean, a radical, like American, what was he, a Democrat Socialists of America. I think he was actually a full blown communist, and they had their disastrous water debacle back then. Well, Atlanta's bigger than both of those cities, and they're having these major issues. And again, nobody knows why. So I found this guy apparently in the Atlanta area, made this video and started asking these questions. And these are questions, folks, you should probably be asking yourself.
Have you seen what's going on in Atlanta? There is multiple water main breaks and the whole city is without water. And they're telling the people they don't have a time frame on when it will be fixed. My question is, how does a whole city's water supply get knocked out? Systems are set up so this does not happen. But how do multiple water mains break in the same city at the same time? Now, I've seen some people talking about the pressure. If one water main breaks, it can affect the pressure on another one. Listen, there's valves and they have separate systems all throughout cities, so this cannot happen. So my question is, how did this happen? And is this suspicious to you? Please leave a comment below. This is all strictly for entertainment purposes. Have a good day, everybody.
Well, clearly we are facing, at least not, maybe not we, because I'm not there, but the people of Atlanta are facing something that is, I don't want to say conspiratorial, because we don't know, but even the fact that we don't know, that's concerning. I'm not saying this was a cyber attack or an attack against our infrastructure or domestic terrorists or China or North Korea or anybody, but maybe it was. And here's the thing. I almost hope that it was, because if it wasn't, that means that our infrastructure is just so brittle. Thanks, Pete Buttigieg, by the way. Our infrastructure is just so brittle, so on the verge of destruction, that we don't need to wait around for our enemies to attack us or to hack the grid or anything like that. We might just fall apart on our own. And unlike other nations out there, people in other nations, we are not prepared for that. We have lived as American citizens. We have lived blessed and charmed lives. Even if you're poor, you still have more access to assistance, more access to shelter, more access to medicines, more access to pretty much anything, right? Especially if you're an illegal alien. Now you got full blown access. You get gourmet food and all the meds that you need, right? But for the rest of us, we're not ready to be able to survive appropriately if things were to crumble in our city. I mean, we would need assistance. These people need assistance, and that's unfortunate. We have lost our ability, I think, as a nation. Most of it, obviously not all of us. You might be sitting out there on your homestead, completely self-sufficient, and you might be like, well, whatever happens over there, I don't care. I got my well water. I got a lake over there. I got a river over here. I've got stored water. I've got plenty of food. I've got ammunition. I got Bibles. I got solar power. I've got wind power. I've got human power. I've got animals. I've got dogs. I got cattle. I got chickens. I got goats. Maybe that's you, and God bless you for being prepared, for being ready. For the rest of us, we're not. Okay, we're not in a position where we could handle if the water magic, the magic water that just comes to us every day, if we didn't have access to that for an extended period of time, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? You need to start thinking about this stuff. And I'm not trying to be a fearmonger here, but folks, don't rely on anything. Don't rely on anybody. And don't live in Atlanta. You can take one takeaway, and it's not just Atlanta. Don't live in the cities if you can. If you have the means, the resources, the ability to leave the cities, please do so. Okay? Don't stick around for this. If and when things truly go south, it will be the cities that are hit first and hit the hardest. They are the easiest to control. There's a reason why they've been pushing this concept of 15-minute cities. This isn't just some intellectual thought experiment. Okay? They want this. They're building it right now. They're trying to convert cities here in the United States of America and across the globe into these 15-minute cities. They want to take you out of your car and put you in an electric bike and hope that not a whole lot of them blow up. Okay? This is reality, folks. This isn't just some machinations of a show host. This is real. This is real. And you need to, if you're not doing it already, you need to start thinking about, number one, leaving the city. Number two, leaving the suburbs even. Okay. Once the cities get hit, the suburbs are next. Where do you want to be when things go south? Where do you want to be? Who do you want to be surrounded by? Would you rather be surrounded by, people, bunches of people crammed into small pockets of livable area, forced to abide by whatever government and the powers that be say in order to get your daily ration of cricket burgers, or do you want to be taking charge of your future? One of the reasons that I got into prepping, it wasn't because of some morbid desire for things to go south. I have been reluctant to get into prepping my entire life. Okay, but I've told the story before. I'll tell it again, I'm sure. Y2K comes around. I was like, hey, nothing to worry about here. I don't know why everybody's freaking out. 2008, economic downturn, 2008 and 2009. People are like, oh my gosh, we're falling apart. I knew we'd recover. It sucked. I was looking more from a political perspective and an economic perspective and a debt perspective as far as the bailouts. I was like, oh my gosh, why are we even, let them fail? But I wasn't out there getting buckets of food or storing away water. 2010, things got a little bit different for me, just a bit. I started getting a little bit concerned because of all things Obamacare. That was sort of my first, maybe we should look into prepping. I talked to my wife about it. We got a couple of bug out bags, got a couple of buckets of food. We thought, all right, we're good to go. We can survive 3 days. Yeah. Fast forward to all the turmoil in 2016 and 2017 in particular. During and after the inauguration of Donald J. Trump, there was a lot of people that were talking about burning it all down. I didn't see it. I knew they'd calm down. I knew that that things would be okay, that Trump would be just fine. Fast forward to COVID, and I remember posting some tweets, and for you kids out there, that's what they used to call X. Posting on Twitter about how annoyed I was that I had to get to the grocery store at 9 a.m. and hope that while I'm standing in line to get toilet paper, that it wouldn't be all gone like it had been the previous couple of days before I actually got to get my toilet paper for my family. I was annoyed. I didn't stock up. I didn't need to. I didn't think that we were going to have any challenges. Fast forward now to post Joe Biden inauguration, first few months of his regime, and all of a sudden it's like, holy crap. I mean, it hit me like a Mack truck. I'm like, wow, we've got to get prepared. I mean, this guy's gonna lay the groundwork to destroy everything. He might be the destroyer himself, or at least not him per se, but his handlers, his cronies, the people around him, people in control of him, they might be trying to take us down. It's time to get ready. I've always said that Barack Obama had laid the groundwork for the destruction of America, and somebody in the future, perhaps it's Joe Biden, perhaps it's Kamala Harris, or Michelle Obama, or whoever, okay, Gavin Newsom, I don't know, whoever they're going to try to throw out there, that will be that person will be the destroyer, and will do whatever they can to destroy the United States of America. Who knows? Maybe it's RFK Jr. I don't know. I don't think it's Trump. I think that Trump's the. There's a reason why they're going after him so hard. It's because he might not allow them to destroy America. God forbid that, right? Point being is that you look at Atlanta, you look at food prices, you look at turmoil, you look at the risks inherent with a divided nation. That's really what we are, more so than ever. People talk about civil war. It's not going to be civil war. If there is a war, it's going to be a revolutionary war, and it's going to be short. And I don't know what the end result will be, but we can't look at this as us fighting our neighbors. We have to look at this as us fighting them, and they being the powers that be. And it's not just the people in government. Deep state has many tentacles. The globalist elite cabal has many infiltrators that are coming across our border nonstop at this point. The risks are there. The writing is on the wall. Get out of the cities. Get prepared. That's it. That's the message. I'm going to take a break. And then when I return, we'll get on to the next story. So stay tuned.
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith-driven approach to service and stewardship is one that stands out from the rest.
To get your free definitive gold guide and get started learning more about investing in gold and protecting your retirement from uncertain times, visit rvmgold.com now. Fill out the basic contact form, and a member of the team will be in touch. Again, that's rvmgold.com or call 855-625-7760.
You really got to love Mike Lindell. I mean, the dude's a true patriot. He is fighting a good fight and doing everything he can to save this nation. Another true patriot is Jesse Kelly over the First. He has done a fantastic job of having one of the most entertaining conservative shows out there. I would say top 5 as far as, at least from an entertainment value. The dude's just funny on top of being right most of the time. He had a guest last week that she dropped some bombs on me that I'd never heard, and I haven't heard since. I went ahead and saved it. Usually I try to stay as topical as possible, but I saved this one because I knew even if it was a week later, it's still going to be relevant, and of course it will still remain unaddressed. Let's play that clip.
You said about the Chinese nationalists operating, what?
Yeah, so when you show up to the Iris drop site, which is a public transit center, first of all, it takes a lot to get me feeling uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable at the Iris Transit Center. So you have thousands of illegal foreigners being bussed in, shuttled in, and then dropped on the street. They hang out, they're military-aged men. NGO operatives come and charge their cell phones, give them water, take them to the Ramada Inn or to the San Diego International Airport. But then there is a large constituency of Chinese men who wait for other unofficial Chinese men who act as a taxi service to come and pick up only Chinese nationals. And because we are a sanctuary state, we have no idea where they are taking them or why there's this collaborative effort, but that's what's happening.
Oh, jeez. Well, that's not alarming at all. All right.
Yeah, no, it's definitely disturbing. What in the world is going on with our nation? I mean, what was we know, and people speak ad nauseum about the border crisis, the border invasion. But when we look at these military-aged Chinese nationals crossing over, again, at rates that are exponentially higher than any time in recent history, we have to start asking questions, and we have to go beyond that. I mean, we need to stop this. This has to end. What, in being in a sanctuary state, I'm sorry, but that's just no excuse. There's got to, this is an invasion. Okay, let's forget about, oh, we're going to lose our jobs, or, oh, the illegal aliens are taking so many taxpayer dollars to be fed and housed in hotels in New York. I'm not trying to downplay that. Those are important. But this, what you just heard, that's terrifying. I mean, it is truly, legitimately terrifying. There's no, I mean, it's not exactly like super easy to just get out of China. Okay, you're a military-age man. Okay, if you're getting out and making it to the United States, you didn't escape. You were sent. So why are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, let's face it, we don't know what the real number is. Okay, we know that there's a whole bunch of military-aged men, Chinese nationals, that are entering into the United States and then apparently disappearing. Who knows where they are? They're not staying in the hotels in New York City. They're not being bussed to any of the various sanctuary cities. They are entering and then disappearing. Poof, gone. Where are they? What are they doing? I'm not trying to scare you. No, I take that back. I am trying to scare you, and you should be scared. You should be demanding answers immediately. Like literally pause the show, call your congressman, call your senator. As a matter of fact, you know what? Just, I don't know. You know, I take pride in offering solutions. This one's way above my pay grade because I don't know what the solution is. Are we really going to be able to slow it down or stop it? Can we wait until the election? I mean, this is one of those scenarios where, you know, it's sort of like if you've got to get your arm chopped off. Okay, so you can do a tourniquet, but what else are you going to do? You maybe cauterize the wound, but outside of that, you need to get to hospital. And if you're not anywhere near a hospital, you're in big trouble. Well, we are in big trouble. There's no way that Gavin Newsom or anybody in California, at least in the government, is going to do anything to stop it. There's no way that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and whoever, the deep state and anybody who's actually controlling things in D.C., they're not going to stop it. You have Republicans. Oh, sure, they love getting Fauci up there and making fun of him and getting sound bites to send out with campaign mailers. But what are they doing to stop it? Is anything being done to stop this? Again, I'm not just talking about the greater, the big picture border invasion that's happening. I'm talking about this specific scenario of Chinese nationals, military-aged men, coming into our nation and then disappearing. It doesn't take a whole lot of people to cause a whole lot of damage. Look at 9/11. They didn't have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of terrorists. They had, 19? What could these guys do? I'm serious. I mean, that's a question. What can these guys do? What damage could they do? Could they destroy the United States of America? The answer, unfortunately, is yes, especially if they're coordinated, if they're properly funded. And it seems as if, based upon what we just heard, that they are just that. They are coordinated. They are properly funded. and they've got something in store, and I don't know what that is. Again, I say get out of the cities. Let's go to a lighter topic. Oh, great. I just pulled up the next story. This is definitely not a lighter topic, but it's at least it's not something that directly affects most people unless you're a woman in prison. This article comes from Breitbart. Transgender convict moved out of California's women's prison after being indicted for rape. Okay, so here's a dude who pretends to be a woman so he can get moved out of the men's prison, moved into the women's prison. I'm not going to dwell on this story. You know the answer to this. Stop putting men in women's prison. Stop letting men compete against women in sports. Stop letting men go into girls' bathrooms, girls' locker rooms. Let's follow the science, as they like to say. And the science says that this dude is a dude. This dude, I don't know how tough he is against men, but this dude can overpower 99 to 100% of the women in this women's prison. And of course, he's been indicted for rape. I mean, who didn't see that one coming? According to this article is by Amy Furr over at Breitbart. Convict who is a man living as a woman. He's not living as a woman. He's pretending to be a woman. Language is important, folks. They don't get to decide that all of a sudden they're a woman. They identify as a woman, so they're a woman. I know I just got myself kicked off of YouTube probably for the 5th time. But you just can't say, oh, he's living as a woman. Give me a break. He's a dude who's pretending to be a woman so he can get moved into a jail with actual women. He's been transferred out of a women's prison in California after being indicted for raping a woman in the shower. A criminal complaint said the suspect, identified as 51-year-old Tremaine Dion Carroll, faces 2 charges of forcible rape and one of dissuading a witness from testifying. Fox News reported Monday, adding that he has a long criminal history. What in the world? What sort of clown world do we have to live in to where this dude, this violent man, gets to say, I'm a woman now, put me in there with my next victim. I mean, with other women, because I'm totally a woman now. I mean, it wasn't too long ago when that would have been impossible, when there was at least a semblance of sanity within our criminal justice system, within our society. But we are devolving. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is an attack not just against the United States as a nation, but it really is an attack against our soul. The normalization of this type of behavior, the normalization and the acceptance by those who should be fighting against it, that's what's really, truly criminal here. We can't allow this to continue. Not like this. Not like this. It's ridiculous. This dude should never have been put into a women's prison. I don't have to tell you that. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I pulled up the story thinking, we're going to get to the you know what? I actually do have, I've got a good one. Let me get that one up. Enough of this depressing stuff. Let's talk, let's talk about jogging. One second.
I don't run to get ready for bikini season. I run so that in the year 2030, when I'm locked out of my electric car for having a bad social credit score, I can get outside the 15-minute city limits and escape the United Nations robocops that are after me for having a steak after I've reached my CO2 limit.
Some people may say that it's hyperbole or that she's exaggerating or that it's not going to get that bad. It could never get that bad. I truly hope and pray that you, my dear and wonderful viewers and listeners, that you are above that at this point, that you realize over the last 4 years, we have witnessed the craziest things. You can really take it back 8 years, but at least for the last 4 years, we've witnessed enough craziness to realize that there is no impossibility anymore. Not when it comes to the crazy things that are happening in our world. We just got done talking about that story. I mean, about a man, a violent man being put into a prison with women, and they're all of a sudden, oh my gosh, can't believe he raped a woman. It's like, give me a break. But that sort of stuff, which would have been considered impossible just a few years ago, is now normalized. It is not beyond question for us to be faced with a scenario where we do have to show our social credit score in order to eat a steak, or we do have to try to escape. Again, for the 3rd time in today's episode, I will say, get out of the cities. The economy is tanking, and unfortunately, with Bidenomics, and I would have, before I get into the next story, I want to say something that I have neglected to say too often. Unfortunately, I will join in on the attacks oftentimes against Joe Biden, but I don't think that that's the best course of action. I think that we should be attacking Democrats in general. The uniparty swamp is really who we should be attacking. It's not just Democrats. We could say every Democrat, and then half, maybe more than half of the Republicans are against us. They are against us, and they are destroying us. This isn't just about Joe Biden or even his handlers. This really is. We need to start adopting that attack frame. Instead of just attacking Joe Biden, we have to attack Democrats in the uniparty swamp. Because if he is replaced, which is still, I think, a very, very decent possibility, if he gets replaced before the general election, well, all of those attacks against Biden and Bidenomics are nullified. Okay, if they insert somehow, they get Michelle Obama to run or whatever, I don't know what the plan is, but if they get somebody else to run, then all this effort that we've been putting, we being conservative media, and you, conservative viewers, all this effort we've been putting to talk about how bad Joe Biden is, all of a sudden is reversed. It's like, well, okay, Joe Biden is bad, Joe Biden is bad, Joe Biden is dumb, Joe Biden has dementia, Joe Biden's policies suck, Bidenomics sucks. Okay, well, if that's our message, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, we agree, so we're putting in Gavin Newsom or somebody. It's like, oh, well, crap, let's start over. No, we shouldn't have to start over. We should be attacking Democrat policies in general, not just Biden. We can't attribute all of our woes to Joe Biden, because if he's replaced, then all of our attacks are for naught. With that said, we can say that California's radical leftist government and the radical progressive economic and financial policies they put into place have resulted in absolute disaster. I'm out here in California. I can tell you there are disasters around every corner now. And unfortunately, those disasters continue to hit not just the poor, not just the individuals, but also the businesses. And one such business is one that I will admit I have eaten there before, and I will miss it because, well, it sucks that they are in the process of closing a bunch of locations. Of course, I'm talking about, if you hadn't heard the news, I'm talking about Rubio's. According to this article from the Epoch Times, in a blow to fish taco lovers, Rubio's they're closing 48 locations here in California. According to the article by Jill McLaughlin, Rubio's Coastal Grill, loved by locals, I'm one of them, for its original fish tacos, promptly closed 48 California locations at the end of May, in part because of the rising costs of doing business in the state, the company confirmed yesterday. It's the latest fast food restaurant chain to close locations or curtail operations in the Golden State following the state's decision to hike mandatory pay for fast food workers to $20 an hour. According to a spokesperson in an email to the Epoch Times, they said, making the decision to close a store is never an easy one. The closings were brought about by the rising cost of doing business in California. After a thorough review of its operations and the current business climate, the company decided to close the underperforming locations May 31st while keeping 86 stores in California, Arizona, and Nevada open. The spokesperson added, so more than one third of the stores in this what was once a thriving and very innovative fast food restaurant. And those who aren't familiar, think along the lines of like a fresher version of Subway, except with tacos. That's the easiest way to put it. And they did really have great fish tacos. But yeah, they're shutting down stores to try to save money. And again, for those who don't know, I'm sure most of you do, California, as we like to call it, decided to raise the minimum wage for fast food workers up to $20 an hour. That is untenable. Okay, Rubio's is not the first. There have been many stores that have closed. They won't be the last. Businesses can't afford it. Okay, they have two options. Option number one: raise prices dramatically. Okay, to cover the expenses, and it's not just the minimum wage hike; it's all the policies, all the Democrat policies that have been thrust upon businesses in California. They're all bad. I mean, every single one of them I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating when I say that every single policy they put forward lately, and when I say lately, I mean for at least a decade, have been bad for business. They're cocky. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. At the end of the day, this is just about California being far too cocky and thinking, oh, we've got the money, we got the people, we've got like the fifth largest economy in the world. Okay, California has a bigger economy than like 190 nations. Well, that's going to change. It's in the process of changing because the Democrat policies that have been put into place here are destroying this state. This is, in my humble opinion, the best overall state. Take away the politics, take away the cost of living, and this is the best overall state of the nation. As far as when you look at the whole, you look at the attractions, you look at the farm, the food, the everything. Okay, better than New York, better than Texas. And I love Texas. My company's in Texas. But I'm still out here in California. The weather's beautiful, everything. But when you get into Democrat policies, cost of living, all of a sudden, it's all negated, which is why so many people are leaving. And just for the sake of because I get a question every time, I get multiple questions every time. Why are you still there? I'll explain it briefly. We do have a certain situation, a medical situation within the family. And there is only one place here, as far as I know, in the United States. There's other places worldwide. I think there's one place in Australia and I think one in Japan. But here in the United States, there's one doctor and one hospital that can do the things that we need done for a family member. I don't get personal here, but I just want everybody to know that if I had anything, any way for us to leave, we would have left years ago. We've stayed because we have one more procedure. Once that procedure, Lord willing, after one more procedure, then we'll leave. But I think there's a reason why we're here. I think there's a reason that I am stuck in California. I don't know what that reason is yet, but hopefully God will reveal it to me pretty darn soon. So rest in peace, or in the slow death of Rubio's. That's going to hurt. That's going to hurt. I'm going to have to find a new place for fish tacos. There's another story over at justthenews.com. Texas Supreme Court rules states' abortion ban laws are legal. Hooray! This is the fight, folks. Let me pull away from the story real quick. This is the fight. Roe v. Wade was just the first step, okay? And it wasn't even the biggest first step. It was the biggest step. It was the most important. It was the one that I'll be frank, I did not expect it. I did not think that I would see Roe v. Wade overturned in my lifetime. Praise God that it was. But that's just the launching pad, folks. That's the foundation. The rest of it, the battle, has to be taken up and properly fought at the state level. And it's got to be hit at every state, even out here in California. Okay? We have to be able to take what we have, the resources we have, the ideology we have to fight this, not just on the political level. The real fight at the end of the day, and also not just on the legal level, even though this is a great victory from a legal perspective, it really is a cultural issue. I've said it many times. Abortion is a cultural issue. We're fighting a cultural war. We need to educate people about what is actually what they think they support. Because I know, I've seen it. We've all seen it. I'm sure you've seen it before. The videos of people that are pro-choice, and then they see one video. All it takes is one video showing what happens with partial birth abortions or even late-term abortions of any sort. It's horrible. It's evil. It's demonic. And people, when they see that, they're like, holy crap. I had no idea. They don't teach this in schools, folks. They teach, I mean, the way that they put, it's just normal. It's so, I mean, even the abortion pills are destructive, damaging, not just to the baby. Obviously, they kill the baby, but they're destructive to the women themselves. We have to win this on a cultural level. We will never be able to win this fully on a political level. Can't happen. There's just too much fight in those, too much going into protecting and preserving the quote-unquote right for human sacrifice. Because that's what it comes down to. As humans, we have engaged in child sacrifice throughout our existence, and this is just the latest iteration of it. I firmly believe that. But we did have some good news, like I said. This, according to Bethany Blankley over at the Center Square, posted over at justthenews.com. Texas Supreme Court rules states' abortion ban laws are legal. After Roe v. Wade was overturned in June 2022, all Texas laws banning most abortions, with exceptions, went into effect on August of 2022. According to the article, the Texas Supreme Court delivered another blow to abortion activists in another lawsuit filed over state laws banning most abortions, ruling they are constitutional. Justice Jane Bland delivered the opinion for the court on Friday. Justice Deborah Learman and Brett Busby filed concurring opinions. The state Supreme Court vacated a lower court's injunction attempting to halt Texas abortion ban laws, arguing that the trial court's injunction departed from the law without constitutional justification. In other words, they weren't allowed to do that. They could say all they want as far as, we need to preserve, let's put an injunction. This is part of, or at least just one angle of lawfare that Democrats are adept at, that leftist judges are adept at, that Republicans are starting to get just a little bit, not even close, not even in the same ballpark, by the way, but at least they know that they have two things going for them. Number one, we have the truth. I mean, there's always that, and that used to be enough, by the way. It's not enough anymore. Number two, we do have, if we can take things all the way to the Supreme Court, there's a good chance, not a great chance, a good chance that we can get the right decisions in place if they're willing to take up certain cases. Now, unfortunately, what we're bad at is getting them to take up the right cases. Okay? It's just, that's on us. That's on conservatives, patriots, America First people, whatever you want to call us. We are not very good at that side of lawfare. And thankfully, we're better at that than we are at the other side of lawfare, which we're just absolutely horrendous at, where we don't have Mark Elias on our side. We don't have Judge Juan Merchan. We don't have Alvin Bragg. We don't have the counterparts to the lawfare people that we're trying to get them. It's in the works, but their sophistication level is far beyond ours. Anyway. So, but what they're saying, what the state Supreme Court said here is basically, you filed the injunction. That's great. It was you didn't have a reason, a constitutional reason to do so. You did not have the power. I mean, they have the power at the lower courts, but they couldn't justify why it was done. Back to the article. After Roe v. Wade was overturned in June 2022, all Texas laws banning most abortions, with exceptions, went into effect in August 2022, as we said earlier. The Center for Reproductive Rights, representing several plaintiffs, sued the state, Attorney General Ken Paxton, and the Texas Medical Board in March of 2023, arguing Texas abortion ban laws violate the Texas Constitution. Among their claims is that the laws prohibited doctors from performing abortions if the life of the mother is at risk. And that's actually not the case, is the weird part, but it is. They will throw whatever they can up against the wall. Okay? We don't have that willingness. We, being patriots, conservatives, whatever, populists even, we don't. We want to make sure that we get it right. Even with the impeachments, okay? When we're looking at the impeachments of, the attempted impeachments of Joe Biden versus the impeachments against Donald Trump, okay, we have far more evidence, we being Republicans. The Republican House has far more evidence than Democrats had, okay, when they impeached Trump twice. If you take their two impeachments, which made it through the House twice, you take both of those, you combine them, and it's still less evidence than we have against Joe Biden, we being the Republican side. But we won't act. We want to button things down. We want to have more hearings, get more campaign sound bites. It just bugs me to death. But that's the reality that we face. That's uniparty swamp politics at its finest. That's how the uniparty works, to be clear. You have Democrats that act. You have Republicans that are part of the uniparty swamp Those guys, their whole job is to just talk a lot, to send harshly worded letters, to go on interviews on Fox News or CNN, to talk. No action. Yeah, we got the Hunter Biden trial going on now. I have zero belief that he will spend a day in jail. I guess it's possible that they might throw him in jail for 10 days. Anything more than 10 days, I think, is an impossibility. I really do. Not because we don't have the evidence. Okay, they have the evidence. I mean, he's guilty, period. Let's just call it what it is. He is guilty. I mean, it's acknowledged that he broke gun laws. But nothing will happen. And then you might say, well, that has nothing to do with Republicans, except that's the trend. Okay? That's what we're faced with in the United States of America today. We have Democrats that act without the backing of the people. They act without the extra constitutionally, and they don't have either the facts or even the sentiment on their side most of the time. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do have the wool pulled over the eyes of a majority of Americans, but most of the time they don't. Most of the time they do not. Whereas Republicans, we usually have the goods. Okay? We have the reason. We have the support. We can take action. If they wanted to, they could arrest. They could investigate, charge, prosecute. Wait, not in that order. Investigate, charge, arrest, prosecute, and convict Anthony Fauci, for example. They could. But they won't. They will hold congressional hearings, and they will get their sound bites. But nothing will actually ever happen to Anthony Fauci. I wish I had more feel-good stories today. I don't. I wish I did. This is another one that, unfortunately, semi-depressing. I'm going to try. I'm making a vow to you right now. I am going to try to find some more feel-good stories before the next show. Again, for those who missed the beginning, I have been on hiatus for a while. Now that we're over at Red Voice Media, rvmnews.com. Now that we're taking a show there, as well as over at Discern TV, as well as on my Rumble channel. I'm rusty. Now that we're back, I want to be able to not just always be Debbie Downer. Oh, bother, things are bad again. You already have enough of that. Later on today, I will be on with the Big Mig. I don't know how long they'll keep me. They said I can talk for at least 30 minutes. They said I can go longer if I could, and I can. By golly, I can go an hour and a half, 2 hours. They shouldn't have given me that option. They'll be already gone and asleep, and I'll still be on their show talking. Hopefully about some fun stuff. But here, again, I wouldn't say this is depressing, but it is informative. And by the way, I hope that you realize that I don't pull up these stories because I want people to feel bad or to lose hope. I pull up these stories because you guys need to know the reality, the truth. This latest one, super important story, comes from WND Rachel Alexander, who was somebody I greatly respect, by the way. Real trooper. She's fought through some hard times over the last couple of years, but she's really fighting. And she's over at WND right now with an article titled "Big Tech Censorship Ramps Up for November Election." Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I will encourage you to read the whole thing because I'll tell a quick story. Back in 2016, there was a little bit of censorship. There was a little bit, but at that point, Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, they were still sort of like, oh, you know what? We don't like the conservatives, but we can't really stop them from saying what they're going to say. So, we'll just turn them down a little bit. And then Trump won, and they had a meeting. They being the leaders in big tech. And we assume that some people in that meeting did include And I say one meeting as if it was one. It was multiple meetings. Okay, but you had the people like Eric Schmidt over at Google, who's now out of Google, but Eric Schmidt at the time over at Google, he was part of it. Mark Zuckerberg, of course, Jack Dorsey over at Twitter, and I'm sure you had other people, plus the deep state, members of the deep state, representatives of the deep state, the intelligence community et al. Well, they were like, holy crap, we did not do enough. We didn't think that Trump had any chance of winning. He won. We can never let this happen again. We have to take control. And thus started, after the Trump election, I mean, almost immediately afterwards, thus started the censorship and propaganda and gaslighting campaigns that have now become normalized within big tech. That's really what this article is about. I'm going to read part of it just so you get a view, because coming into the 2024 election, it's going to be far worse than 2020. Okay, this isn't just they're going to try to suppress Hunter's laptop. They're taking it many, many levels further than that. According to the article, have you noticed the top of your feed on Facebook is now full of left-wing posts? Well, to answer your question, no, because I don't use Facebook. Even though you hardly have any left-wing Facebook friends. The last couple of years, where we saw nothing but relationship memes and people mourning the death of a pet, are over. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, infamous for pouring $419 million of Zuckerbucks into the 2020 election in the heavily Democratic areas, is now focusing the platform on getting out the Democrat message before the 2024 election. Similarly, it has become almost impossible to find conservative information through a Google search, as if Google has suppressed it completely from sight. It's very Orwellian, scrubbing conservative viewpoints from the internet. Since almost everyone gets their information through companies on the internet now, there's no traditional free speech anymore. Hardly anyone attends public town halls or listens to speakers in parks. As I wrote previously, this ostensibly private corporations are not really even private due to their interspersing with government. They are squelching the free speech of conservatives. And she's absolutely right. Let's be clear. I have, for those who don't know, in a previous life, I actually worked very closely, not with Google. Really, I worked against Google. Okay, my job, my old company, before I got into the political side of things, my company was dedicated to trying to take advantage of Facebook, Google, Twitter, MySpace. No, I'm just kidding. But actually, we did dabble in MySpace a bit. I'm not embarrassed to say. But no, our intention was to help businesses become more visible, more prominent, take more control over these emerging arenas of attention. Okay, today that's not even possible anymore. Not if you're a conservative. Okay, I've done searches, and you should do the same. I've done searches for burgeoning conservative companies. They get eliminated. I've done searches for my own companies, not my own companies, but my own websites. Okay, you could search them by name, and you won't find them. I've been hardcore blacklisted by Google. Facebook, joke. Okay, and anybody who's ever and there's many people I talked to one yesterday, as a matter of fact, people who put a lot of effort, and even in many cases a lot of money into Facebook to promote their Facebook pages, to get real engagement. There was this cottage industry back in 2015, 2016 into 2017 until it was cut off, where there were entire websites that depended strictly on Facebook to drive their traffic. They spent a lot of money to build up huge pages. We're talking millions of Facebook followers, legit Facebook followers, and they were able at the time to send tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of visitors per day to their sites. They can't do that anymore, not unless they're playing ball. Anybody that you see is, just as a litmus test, anybody that you see in conservative media who does very well on Facebook, they're part of the problem. They are controlled opposition. You can't be not controlled opposition and do well on Facebook, period. There are none. And when I say, well, I want to be clear. There are certain, especially some of the larger publications, that they can overpower the algorithm, so to speak. Maybe they're okay. Maybe. But others that are doing well on Facebook, if they are conservative, then, again, it's a good litmus test, a red flag, really. But anyway, I digress. Point being is that we saw the shenanigans at the end of the 2020 election in October, with the Hunter Biden laptop, that is going to be child's play compared to what we're going to experience, what we're currently experiencing. I'm not saying what we're going to experience. What Rachel Alexander details here basically tells us that all of the platforms, all the major platforms, are having challenges. I am working with my good buddy Jeff Dornick to launch pickaxe.com. I think that it will help solve a lot of these problems. I don't think we're not going to be fully launched until after the election, so it's not like we can't fight Google or Twitter yet. People, oh, but Twitter's a good guy now. We'll see. The jury is definitely still out on that one. But Google, definitely evil. Facebook, definitely evil. And those two account for, 40, 50, 60% of the political mind share? I know TikTok's moving up. I know Instagram has its moments. I know Twitter holds a lot of clout. But Google has the lion's share, and Facebook is a close second. Not necessarily a close second. They are second, though. We can say all we want about, but Twitter and Elon. Okay, yeah, still, Facebook is still much, much bigger, again, as far as mind share of the political zeitgeist. So I strongly encourage you to read this article. It's relatively long, but we will leave a link over the show notes to this WND article, and check it out and see what you make of it. Whenever I go on anybody else's show, one of the first questions they ask me is why we started our long-term storage beef company, preparewithbeef.com. And I tell them this quick story. I tell them back in 2022, I was approached by a gentleman named Jason Storm Nelson. He had just gotten done with his congressional campaign. He was trying to defeat a rhino and lost, unfortunately. Uniparty Swamp took him out, but he wanted to continue to fight the good fight. He'd already been in the Marines. He'd been in the Army, yes, both. He was a combat disabled veteran, and he wanted to continue to do something. So he thought, I'll start a show. And Rucker knows about shows, so let me call Rucker. So we were talking about it, and I said, if you're into prepping, I do know these guys that are looking specifically for a prepping show. It'd be a great way to start. He's like, actually, I am into prepping. I'm like, okay, great, so am I. And we started talking, sort of went off topic and started talking about various prepper foods out there, long-term storage food. Basically trading advice like, hey, the stroganoff by these guys, it's really good, but their spaghetti's terrible. It's like, oh no, but I found really good spaghetti with these guys. And we were just talking about it for a little while, and then the conversation turned to meat, and in particular beef. It's like, have you ever found any good beef out there? It's like, no. They're either selling beef chunks or beef crumbles. It's like, why don't they sell any of the good beef? And that's when the term, I don't remember if it was him or me that came up with it, but one of us said, the beef crumbles, after you rehydrate it, it's basically like meat-flavored porridge. And it's true. Anybody who's ever tried long-term storage beef, whether it's beef crumbles or beef chunks, it's as if they make the food, okay? They make it, and they hope that you just take it and you stick it in your closet or under your bed or something, and you just leave it until the apocalypse. And then once the apocalypse comes, their customer service will be out of order anyway, so they won't have to worry about it. They really don't want you to try it. Well, at preparewithbeef.com, we do want you to try it. We desperately want you to try it. We want you to eat a lot of it because it's good. It's not beef crumbles. It's not beef chunks. We cut up ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, the good stuff, sirloin. We take actual all-American beef, and as a matter of fact, it's not just all-American, it's Texas-born and raised, okay? It's the good stuff, truly good Texas cattle. We slaughter it, we cook it sous vide, and then we freeze-dry it for a 25-year shelf life. This cattle has never left Texas. It doesn't leave until it's in a bag, getting shipped to you. And once it's in that Mylar bag with the oxygen absorbers, again, it has that 25-year shelf life that people are craving. So we tried it, we loved it, and everybody else loves it too. We keep getting people reordering it. It's like, wow, they must be really stocking up for the apocalypse. And we contact them, and it's like, oh no, we just keep eating it. We keep throwing it in stew, throwing it in chili. We have Taco Tuesday, and we love the beef. So if you would like to check it out And I would recommend, trying one. If you trust me, you can get a 4-pack or a 10-pack or a variety pack or any of those. And you can take advantage of promo code JDR at preparewithbeef.com. That's preparewithbeef.com. And see why we're growing so quickly, why we're expanding so fast. We will never inject our cattle with mRNA vaccines. That's a promise. We are fighting right now against the bird flu. We're prepared just in case it gets mandated in certain states. Like if we get run out of Texas, we're ready to go move to Utah or Idaho or wherever. We will do whatever it takes to prevent our beef from ever being mRNA'd. And it appears, especially with bird flu being the current predicate that they're trying to use for us, Bill Gates is already chomping at the bit, trying to get all the beef, all the cattle in America injected. Well, we will fight that, and we can assure you of this: that our beef currently has never been, and none of the beef we ever sell will be injected with mRNA jabs. That's a promise. We will shut down the company if it ever becomes impossible for us to produce it without that. And we work with enough patriotic ranchers. I don't think that'll ever be the case, but we are prepared to go down that road. So check us out, preparewithbeef.com. Stock up on high-quality, tasty protein. One ingredient, folks. There's no preservatives. There's not even salt. Okay? It's one ingredient. Just beef. So check it out, preparewithbeef.com, promo code JDR for 25% off. It's unfortunate that this last story of the show happens to be from Fox News. I know I've ripped on Fox News at least 2 or 3 times during today's episode, but they got the story this time. So, even though I generally don't watch Fox News, and I very rarely even watch clips from Fox News ever since Tucker Carlson was fired, and I very rarely read them. But this one caught my eye. I'll admit it. I did read it, and it does make some important points. But before we get to that article, I wanted to highlight one important trend that I want to hopefully reverse. There's this idea, especially as people read polls, they read articles about how, the Democrats just handed the election to Trump because of this conviction, or wow, this is going to be a landslide, or look at all these minority voters that are switching over, or hey, he might win the Bronx, and this, that, or the other. Our biggest threat to being able to win the 2024 election is, of course, the shenanigans that the deep state will participate in, very similar to 2020. That's a whole other discussion for a whole other day. But the second biggest, and a close second biggest threat, is complacency. If we think we're going to win, then we're just going to be less likely to get out and vote. You might say, well, I think we're going to win, and I'm definitely going to get out and vote. Well, if you think that you're going to lose, not only are you going to get out and vote, you're going to do everything that you can to fight to get your friends, your relatives, anybody that you have influence over, you're going to try to get them out to vote. And that's the mindset that we have to have from now going forward. Read the polls, throw the polls away, okay? The polls are generally inaccurate the day before an election. They're definitely inaccurate months before. Anything can happen. Stop reading the polls. Pretend like they don't exist. I stopped posting stories over the Liberty Daily about polls because, again, they're ridiculous. They're ludicrous. They don't count. I know other people will post over at the Liberty Daily and post things that may be poll related, because it is. Look, people are interested in it because we want to know what's going on. But I say stop. I say don't. Just move forward with the assumption that we need an absolute landslide in every state, especially the swing states. If we win by 4 points, chances are we're going to lose. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but knowing everything that they're doing, knowing how far they're willing to go, and they're going to go farther this year than they did even in 2020, knowing that they're going to fire every possible weapon, and they're already in the process of doing so, to try to prevent Donald Trump from being president again, knowing that, you have to assume that we need absolute landslides. So no, we're not winning. No, the conviction, has it shifted some sentiment? Is he picking up more female voters, more minority voters, more whatever voters? Great. Okay, pretend like he's losing bigly. Get that mindset and fight. Because otherwise, Otherwise, all these feel-good stories about, oh, Trump's getting this, Trump's winning that, they're counterproductive. We are in the fight for our lives. We need to act like it. So, this article over at foxnews.com by Joseph A. Wolfson. Some former, quote, never Trump voters now say they're backing GOP nominee after his conviction. Again, I sound like, oh, why are you talking about this story if you just said, don't get complacent? Well, there's a strategy here. So you'll understand why. A group of what's been described as never Trump voters are suddenly backing the former president following last week's historic conviction. Free Press spoke with several voters from across the country whose opinions were significantly impacted by the guilty verdict in the New York trial against former President Trump. Sean McGuire, a Los Angeles-based venture capitalist and a former Hillary Clinton campaign donor, declared on social media that he donated $300,000 to the Trump campaign within an hour of the verdict and wrote in an essay that the, quote, the double standards and lawfare that Trump has faced boiled my blood. He told the Free Press, we were told that Donald Trump would be the end of democracy, but it turns out that lawfare tactics have been escalated by the Democrats and not by the Republicans. And so it's from that backdrop that I believe the Republican Party is less of a danger to democracy than the Democrat Party right now. And not only is that true now, it's always been true. Okay, you can take it back to the beginning. You can take it back to the post-Lincoln party sets, and they were always the bigger danger, the bigger threat to the United States of America. Back to the article. University of Chicago law school lecturer Adam Mortara similarly donated $3,300 to the Trump campaign after not voting in 2020 and opposing him during the 2016 GOP primary, hoping a Trump victory would have a deterrent effect on weaponizing the legal system against political foes. Okay, well, that's a good point. This isn't just about saying, hey, we got to defeat you because you're basically cheating against our guy. This is about saying, hey, anybody who cheats, you're going to have the opposite effect, so just don't cheat. And I'm not talking about cheating like voter fraud and stuff like that. Obviously, that can work. I'm talking about cheating by using lawfare and trying to jail. And apparently, some Democrats actually want to have him killed. They want him in Rikers Island with no Secret Service protection. He would not survive. As physically strong as you think Trump is, he's still in his 70s, and he would not survive Rikers Island without protection. I assure you of that. That terrifies me to even think of that prospect. Point being is that, things are looking okay. Things are looking up, right? But we can't think along those lines. We have to pretend like we are losing badly. And that's the only way that we will actually be able to win. At this point, I'm still at about 50-50. Okay? I still think, obviously, there's good momentum for the Trump campaign. Obviously, there's a lot of super positive sentiment. But the question is whether or not, in the swing states, if he will be able to have a large enough victory that they can't steal it from him. That's really what's at stake here. That's really the main reason why we've got to fight harder than just, we're up by 3 points. That's not good enough. We need to continue to press the issue, and it's not just about the lawfare aspect of it. I want people to stop saying, because he's convicted, that's why, whoever, this voter block, that voter block, they should vote for him because of that, or they're going to vote for him because of that. Pretend like he's not convicted, okay? Let's pretend for a moment that, something crazy happens, and as far-fetched as this may sound, I think that it's definitely possible. I can imagine Joe Biden pardoning Donald Trump. And you might say to yourself, well, I don't know. That doesn't seem very possible. He could have Kathy Hochul, governor of New York, pardon Trump. They could make a big, press gala about it. They can come out and say, hey, we think Donald Trump did wrong. We respect the rule of law. Nobody's above the law. But in this particular instance, we feel that they can make whatever excuse they want. We feel that at his age, that he probably shouldn't serve jail time, and we need to just defeat him at the ballot box and make him retire or whatever. I mean, they can make whatever excuse they want, but if they were to do that, a lot of sentiment, not all of it, but a lot of the sentiment, a lot of the goodwill that's being pushed towards Trump right now will be reversed. It's like, oh, wow, Joe did the right thing. Far-fetched? You betcha. Likely? Nope, not a bit. But it's possible. And unfortunately, it would be the smart move. It really would be the smart move. If the Biden-Harris regime wants to win again, that's how they would go about doing it. That would be one easy way. Now, they're probably not going to do it because they would get backlash from this. They would have to face other things. It couldn't not work out for them. It could be turned against them. So it is a risky move. But again, they're looking at the polls. We're looking at the polls. Everybody's looking at the polls. The polls show he's in trouble. So what's going to stop him from committing a desperate move like that? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it's possible. We need to win the war based upon ideas. We need to win the war based upon results. I'm talking about the political war. We shouldn't rely on lawfare any more than they should rely on lawfare. That's all they've got. We shouldn't rely on trying to take an attribute such as victimhood, because that's really what this comes down to. What's the difference between Trump in 2016 and 2020 versus Trump in 2024? The biggest difference is that in 2016 and 2020, he was never viewed as a victim. Now, all of a sudden, he is the victim. And you might say, oh, but the fake news was going after him, and Hillary and the impeachments and yada, yada, yada. There's all these things. He was victimized. Not like this. Okay? This is tangible. If somebody gets impeached, they feel like that's the equivalent of getting fired from a job. That's not like major victimization, especially for a billionaire. That nobody was thinking, oh, poor Trump. He's just, when I say nobody, many of his supporters felt that way. I'm talking about independents. I'm talking about Democrats. I'm talking about never Trumpers, as the article is talking about. They've never looked at Trump as a victim. Well, now all of a sudden they do, because he is. And that's why he's getting these big donations from former Hillary Clinton supporters. This is why the polls are shifting, why the sentiment is shifting. But if that gets reversed by a pardon by Kathy Hochul on behalf of Hochul on behalf of Joe Biden, that could be very bad for us. So, point being is, fight the idea war. Let's convince people that we're right. Let's show people that we're right. Let's not try to bully. Let's not try to gaslight. Let's not lie, cheat, or steal. Let's take the higher road this time. And you might say, oh, but that doesn't work in the past. Wrong. That's incorrect. It has worked in the past. It just hasn't been used properly in recent years. Okay? Was it used in 2016? Did we win the war of ideas? Yep. That's exactly what happened in 2016. And it would have happened again in 2020, except, they did what they did to prevent it from happening. So now all of a sudden I see all these people talking about going down, we're trying to pick out every evil thing that the Democrats do that we've condemned ourselves, and we're saying we should do that. Look, I understand. I said earlier in the show that we Republicans are getting better at lawfare. That doesn't mean I support it. There's for those who did see, and I'm sure most of you did, unfortunately, I'm one of those who saw it, the episode 2 of the Star Wars saga. Okay. Obviously not as bad as episode 7, 8, or 9, but still pretty bad. It wasn't a very good movie. But there was this weird when they discovered the stormtroopers, they discovered the clones, right? And it's like, well, I guess they're building an army for us, so I guess we should use the army. And of course, that army was used against them. For anybody who watched the movie, I fear that we're going down the same road. In other words, we're going to suddenly look at this. Oh, this is a gift. This is great, and we're going to try to engage in these ugly tactics. I'm not going to call out which ones necessarily. I can already see. Is he talking about mail-in voting? Is he talking about lawfare? Is he talking about propaganda, about lying, cheating, and stealing? Any of the above, all the above, none of the above. Doesn't matter. The point is that we have the ideas. We can point to what happens when you take the defund police concept, and we could say, hey, that's what happens. Let's not do that again. Don't vote Democrat, vote for us. We can say, look at the transgender issue. We can see time and again, over and over again, male athletes beating female athletes, male prisoners raping female prisoners. It just keeps happening. Let's get that out there. Let's win that idea war against wokeism. Let's talk about Ukraine. Let's highlight what's actually been done with all the Ukrainian aid. Is that going to help the people of Ukraine? Is that going to reverse their fate in the war? No, it's just prolonging it. It's just a proxy war. Okay, let's get that idea out there. Stop focusing on these shortcuts. Democrats take shortcuts. We focus on what's real. That's what makes it easier for us. We've got a lot of things that are against us. Corporate media is against us. Big tech's against us. We've got they cheat, they lie, they steal. What we have going for us is we have the right ideas. We have the solutions. And in most cases, vast majority of cases, the solution is to get government out of the way. Let's try that for once. Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.